Holy smokes. Do we have a live show for you today? Wow. We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this rebel outpost. And we are going to be, I am going to be a rebel. Today I'm going to be a rebel, and I'm going to be the most unpopular college football YouTube host in the country again. But if you want to support that, hit the dollar with a donation, hit the dollar sign where you make a comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome, one and all, into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls later in the show. Drama in Tennessee. Drama in Tennessee. Nico. Now, first of all, before this, we're gonna start off the monologue talking about the drama in Tennessee. To Nico or not to Nico, that is the question. But before I get into it, before we go down this story, the drama in Tennessee, As you all know, a lot of you all know, the people have been watching the show for a very long time. I don't do a great job of talking. I do not do a great job of pronouncing my words. Every live show, every episode I do, every single live show I do, I am screwing up the English words, the English vocabulary. I do it all the time. In fact, I misspeak your names all the time. Sometimes you guys got to tell me 3 or 4 different times before I even get your name correctly. I do not do this out of disrespect. I do not do this because I run a sloppy studio. I do not do this because I'm not concentrating. I have speech issues that I go through. There's a lot of words, there are times that I lock up. I used to be deaf. I was deaf until I was 7. I took speech classes my whole childhood, all through high school, where I had a personal, had a couple of different operations. It's one of the reasons why I have a loud voice. I have a loud singing voice, but I screw up my words. Most of the time, you all get kind of used to it, right? Plus, I have a thick Minnesota accent. But you all get used to it. You don't really care. We kind of joke around. But I do want to say, when I mispronounce your name, I don't mean any disrespect at all. My wife's name is Mireya. And I oftentimes, I don't get it right. There are often times when I'm talking about a football player, college football player, and I can't get his name right, or I can't get a coach's name right. DJ Ungo Ungale took me forever to figure out just how to get close. So when I mispronounce a football player's name, I apologize profusely. I'm not trying to show your quarterback any disrespect, or your coach's name, or you, the individual, the PATC family member. But I screw it up all. So when it comes to the quarterback of the Tennessee Volunteers, during this live show, I'm going to be calling him Nico, like I've always done. He should be called by his last name, right? He deserves that respect. A good young man, college football player, could go to the NFL, but I'm not going to be able to do it. I just going to have to call him Nico. So for the Tennessee Volunteer fans out there who watch this program, I am not doing this out of disrespect. I am not. There have been Gopher players that I don't even try to pronounce. It's just the way it is. So I'm going to be calling him Nico. And now hopefully people can forgive me for my inability to talk. Okay? So Nico it is. Now, it is drama in Tennessee. You got all the reports yesterday. There's more reports coming today. We are going to start up with it today. Nico did not show up for practice today. And the Tennessee coaches were not expecting that today. Reports yesterday that Nico is renegotiating with Tennessee his contract, the collective contract, because the rev share numbers, that hasn't started yet. According to reports today, and I don't know if they're completely accurate, but it sounds like that Nico has a contract between $2.2 million and $2.5 million. They're trying to renegotiate that before the Deloitte clearinghouse comes into effect. And we're going to talk, in the second part of this monologue, we're going to talk about this settlement again. We're going to talk about Deloitte again, because I still believe there is a strong misunderstanding about all of what is going on. I want to talk about that again as well today. But we're going to first start with the drama in Tennessee. Now, if you go read the Tennessee message boards, it's not even close to a consensus. There is a wide range of opinion. There are volunteer fans that says, you know what, Nico is just, other quarterbacks have gotten a little bit more money. He's got to get what he's got to get what the market is. He should get what he wants. We can't afford to let Nico go. If Nico leaves, other people are going to be going in the portal off the team. We got to pay him what he wants. And then there's other volunteer fans that says Nico can go kick rocks. He can leave. Especially after today, where he did not show up for practice during a renegotiation and the coaches were surprised. There was no, supposedly, communication. And it's not just those two extreme positions that the volunteer fans are taking. It's everything in between. It is fascinating to watch. We are going to talk about Nico. And then I want to get your opinions on what Tennessee should do. Should they let him go? Should they get the deal done? Jake Merklinger is a Tennessee freshman quarterback. We're going to be talking more about him. He played a little bit last year. He played 4 years in high school. He's got a lot of tape, very impressive tape, 4-star out of Georgia. So we're going to go through that. But then I want to talk about this pay-for-play situation that we're in. I have come to the belief, how do I say this? Let me go back here. Suddenly I'm starting to cough here. Going back to yesterday. Brett Yormark, second paragraph down. Everyone knows there's a sense of urgency, Yormark said. Time is not on our side. So we have to move quickly and swiftly. The settlement is one thing, but it needs to be codified on the Hill. The more I look at this, the more people I talk with, I completely understand the Hail Mary that is being thrown by Sankey, Petiti, Yormark, and Phillips. If they don't get this thing codified, if they don't get this settlement codified, we are going to go through hell like you haven't been witness to it before in college athletics. Which is going to be a very unpopular take. But I'm sorry, I got to take it. if you are rooting for the destruction of the House NCAA settlement in any way, any fashion, any form, what is going to happen next is going to be unbelievably destructive. Do I agree with everything in the House NCAA settlement? No. Do I wish we would have taken a different direction 3, 5, 10 years ago? Yes. But after saying that, can I acknowledge that more student athletes than ever before are going to be compensated higher, more than ever before because of this settlement? Yes. That is a fact. And if the settlement doesn't get codified and this thing goes down, the ramifications, you're not going to be wishing that your billionaire supporter is going to be paying for pay-to-play deals for student athletes. You're going to be praying that your billionaire pays the back pay costs that your school will accumulate if this settlement goes down. And by the way, the billionaires are probably not going to do that, right? Are they going to come in and give you a big old check to help you survive Armageddon when the $2.8 billion back pay goes to $20 billion? The horse, the cow, the pig, the sheep, they have all left the barn. We are not going back to a pre-NCAA House versus NCAA settlement world. We are going to be talking about that extensively on this show, because I know most of you are going to disagree with me, and that's a beautiful thing. And I'm going to take it step by step on why, and I have come to this. I now completely understand why your Mark said what he said. More than ever today. More than ever. We can't have a college sports world, but for me, a college football world. We cannot go back to where the owners dictate everything. The universities and the schools, where they keep all the revenue. We can't go back there. But we sure in the hell cannot go to a world that's completely dominated, completely run by a few agents, a few billionaires, and a few lawyers. That ain't going to work either. I mean, that will be... I mean, if that happened, I would close up this YouTube channel in a nanosecond. We are on the knife's edge here. I completely understand the urgency on this. A collective bargaining agreement. First of all, we're not anywhere close to a CBA. I wish we would have gotten it, but we don't have it. That's the reality. This settlement is reality. When you have a collective, if you're going to do, let's pretend for a moment, then we're going to get to the Nico story, and then we'll get back to this. Let's pretend just for a moment that we're all sitting around and we're doing a collective bargaining agreement. These student athletes are students. These student athletes are students. The Supreme Court has said you got to treat these student athletes the same way you treat the students. If a student athlete wants to go to a different university for his education, he's going. She is going. They're gone. We just had an we've had so many examples of that just recently. The Wisconsin player going to Miami. You're not going to stop him. He's gone. Now, maybe you can have a contract in which the university, the school that loses them, gets compensation back. A buyout provision. But they're gone. Unlike a binding contract in the NBA, in the NFL, where a player cannot, they got a 3 or 4 year contract, 5-year contract. We're not going to get there, guys and gals. We're not going to get there when they are student athletes. They're not, it's not happening. You're not going to have a draft. In the collective bargaining agreement, the owners are not going to be able to bargain for a draft because these are student athletes. They're going to be able to choose what college they go to. So because they're not going to be binding contracts to keep a player 2 or 3, 4 years, because there's no draft, because of that reality, and that's the reality, the pay-for-play deals that are out there are so potent. Why would the ownership, the schools and the universities and the conferences go into a collective bargaining with labor when they know none of it is really important? It would all unravel because you got sitting out there pay-for-play deals that are happening. That's the ultimate power. That's the only power in any of this. Unlike NFL deals, unlike if you're an NBA player and you get a name, image, and likeness deal, most of those deals are not tied into where you are playing. Some of them are. Some NBA players, for example, have a local deal with a car wash or a plumbing company, and they put their face and name on the trucks. But if they leave, if they play somewhere else, the deal's null and void. But most of these NIL deals, most of these name, image, and likeness deals in the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, they are tied to a commercial endeavor. If you go from the Vancouver Canucks to the Washington Capitals and you've got an NIL deal, most of the time it doesn't affect it if it's a major big deal. What's going on in college sports right now, almost all these big deals, NIL deals, are not name, image, and like. They're pay to play. Because if you sign somebody for $3.5 million to play basketball, and you're calling it an in-name, image, and likeness deal, if they leave that school and go to another school tomorrow, are you still going to pay them $3.5 million? No, you're not. Because they're not playing at the school that you want them. It's a pay-for-play deals. Those pay-for-play deals, they're not potent in the world of NFL, in the NBA, in the NHL, because these players have binding contracts. But because we don't have binding contracts and we cannot get there unless they become employees, and we'll get back, and that's not going to happen. We'll get back in the back half of the monologue on that. But because there's not binding contract, because there's not an NFL draft, because these are students with obligations as a student, because all of that, the agents, the lawyers, they know they've got the ultimate power because of the pay-to-play deals that will be struck. And that is why Yormark, Sankey, the whole SEC conference, that is why the Ivy League, Dartmouth, that goes back in the students become employees. It's not going to happen. So because of the reality that we're in today, not what we wish it to be, but the reality of today is the agents and the lawyers are advocating for the agents. The lawyers are getting paid by the agents. They are running the ship right now. And I know they say they're advocating for the student athlete. They're advocating for the 2%ers. Again, let's go back here. This House versus NCAA settlement is not perfect, but more student athletes are going to be getting paid more compensation than ever before because of the settlement. But see, the agents, they're looking for that. When they get a cut of that money, they're looking for the big enchiladas out there. They're looking for the big cheese out there. They don't want that to go away out there. The lawyers who are getting paid to advocate for the agents don't want that to go away. They don't want this engine of pay to play that's being created by the realities on the ground. They don't want that to go away. And they spend every day talking about it. And then usually the rallying cry is labor, these student athletes. But the reality is they're about to blow up this thing called competition. The real product that we're trying to produce, just like the NFL. If this settlement blows up, ladies and gentlemen, and I know it's not perfect, it's not what I would wanted. It's not what I wanted. But if this thing blows up, there are going to be massive consequences. Massive. And it's going to affect every single one of your athletic departments, every one of your institutions, everybody in the chat room. It's going to affect each and every one of you. The money is going out the back door, the front door, and through the windows. You're not going to be worrying about anymore about contract or paid up. You're going to be worrying about how in the hell do we pay for this now? The back pay. That is why the only way out of this is a miracle shot. It's a moonshot. Somehow the Senate gets together and they pass, they do some sort of carve out, some protection. Now, a lot of you are screaming at your TV and screaming at your phone and saying, Greg, make these students, athletes, employees. Then they'll have binding contracts. Then they can have a CBA. I'm going to go into that next in the back half of the monologue. But I can tell you, it ain't happening. It ain't going to happen. These student athletes are not going to become employees. These universities will shut everything down. Dartmouth, the Ivy Leagues, they've already threatened it. The Big Ten, they all will. Because it opens up a Pandora box that would go right through these universities, right through these research departments and everything else. Okay, but let's get into Nico first. Let's get into Nico first. Nico or not to Nico? That is the question. Let me do a roll call real quick. Your friend Wild Jute suggests Notre Dame demand an unequal revenue cut to join the Big Ten. Would the conference leader make that deal? Has been. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much at all. Notre Dame can demand it, and maybe they would get it. Maybe. I think the Big Ten's going to go to somewhat of that anyways. I mean, eat more of what you actually kill. A little bit of it. It ain't going to be radical like what the ACC did. So maybe Notre Dame can do a little bit of that. Again, though, Notre Dame is going to be making more in the Big Ten Conference than they would as an independent program. But they've always known that. And that still hasn't been enough for them to move into the Big Ten. I think that might be a little bit of, when we come to that again, and it will, at some point the ACC is going to get poached. At some point the Big Ten and Notre Dame are going to have talks. At some point Notre Dame is going to be looking at their future scheduling, their future contract with NBC. How can we make this work? Don't know if they can make it work. Honestly, I still haven't gotten a good answer from anybody. How can they make it work without that scheduling deal? And maybe that's part of the negotiations. Has been. Great question. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for helping us keep the lights on. Heartbreak 25 for the love of God. And bless the Virgin Mary, Greg. Please stop picking Penn State. You picked us to win the Frozen. You picked us to win the Frozen Four, and they lost. You know what I think it is? I think the date. We're talking about when the clearinghouse takes effect, when the rev share takes effect, when all this takes effect. It's the start of the next fiscal year in college athletics. And that always ends on June 30th and it begins on July 1st. July 1st is the magical date. So I think on July 1st, Greg the Gold becomes real. So everything I say before July 1st, I'm still Greg the Cooler. But on July 1st, 2025, it all happens, baby. It all happens. Greg the Gold. So if I pick Penn State to win the Big Ten championship, after July 1st, Heartbreak 25, book it, baby. Book it. Okay, thank you so much for the super chat, Heartbreak 25. I appreciate it so very much. Okay, Studzilla, is Greg a Penn State cooler? If so, I'd like to use this to my advantage. I'm a cooler on everything. Studzilla, if I pick your team, you are in a lot of trouble. But that changes. Greg the Cooler has been alive, thriving for the last 3 years on this college football YouTube channel. July 1st, it all changes. Greg the Gold makes an appearance. Let's get to Nico. Thank you all for coming on in. I appreciate it. Not going to do a full roll call. Thank you, everybody. Nico, Tennessee's $2 million quarterback, absent from practice amid NIL talks, sources told The Athletic. Ralph Russo, David Ubben, Sam Kahn Jr., Tennessee quarterback Nico did not attend practice on Friday, today, according to a program source familiar with the situation, raising questions about his future with the Volunteers less than a week before the spring transfer portal window opens. Nico absence from practice a day before Tennessee's scheduled spring game was unexpected. Holy smokes. That is the money shot, man. Okay, you're in negotiations. Okay, you don't want to get injured. Okay. But the coaches did not know that Nico wasn't going to show up. Nico's absence from practice a day before Tennessee's scheduled spring game was unexpected, said the person who spoke to The Athletic on condition of anonymity because the team's practice was closed to the public. There are other outlets that are reporting the exact same thing. The Athletic. Two other people briefed on the situation. Said there are ongoing talks between the players, representatives, and the Name, Image, and Likeness Collective that supports the school's athletes about reworking his contract with the collective. On3 first reported on Thursday that Nico was renegotiating his contract. His father, Nick, criticized that report in a social media post. More games being played off the field than on the field, the father reported. Nico is heading into his third season at Tennessee. Second as the starter. The former five-star recruit from California was among the first players reported to receive a multi-million-dollar NIL deal from a collective. That deal with the Volunteers Club, the Vol Club, ended up drawing scrutiny from NCAA investigators, which led to the Attorney General of Tennessee suing the NCAA and the association rules against NIL being used as a recruiting inducement being dropped. This was to be the last season of Nico's original 4-year, $8 million, which was set to pay him $2.2 million this year. The market for starting quarterbacks have gone up. Former Georgia quarterback Carson Beck received a deal reportedly worth $4 million to transfer to Miami earlier this year. If Nico were to enter the transfer portal, he would only be immediately eligible to play at a school outside the SEC. That is the PATC money shot number 2 of the article. According to the SEC rules, it's a conference rule. If Nico were to transfer, he would only be immediately eligible to play at a school outside of the SEC. Although the NCAA tweaked its transfer rules to allow undergraduates to transfer without penalty, the SEC still has a conference rule that is more restrictive. If an SEC player wishes to transfer to another school in the conference, he must enter the portal before February 1st. That means essentially that player must enter during the winter transfer portal window, which ran from December 9th to the 28th. Although there are additional 5-day windows for players whose seasons last beyond the winter portal dates. This was the updates throughout the day today. Tennessee on 3. Tennessee on 3 reported Nico not at practice this morning. Per Volquest. Chris Lowe, ESPN. Tennessee quarterback Nico, amid reports that he wanted to renegotiate his NIL deal, did not show at Friday morning's practice, sources told ESPN, and it was a surprise to Tennessee staff members and players. Nico reps denied Thursday there was any renegotiation talk. I got to tell you guys, this morning, before all these reports came out, this morning, I listened to the Ari Wasserman and Andy Staples show on 3. And the both of them looked into the cameras and said that Mr. Knuckles got it correct. Like, they know for sure that Nico has been renegotiating. That Nico's representation did not tell the truth yesterday. On 3 knew they had this report signed, sealed, and delivered. And it turns out that they were correct. More reporting. Chris Lowe, Nico's reps were adamant Thursday to news outlets that there was no NIL renegotiation going on. But sources tell ESPN there has been growing frustration among the administration and players about this situation, especially when Nico did not show up for practice today. Now, my question is, frustration among the players. Were the players frustrated at Nico or frustrated at the administrators for not getting this new deal done with Nico? Right? Where were the players' minds on this? Maybe it was split in the locker room. Maybe the players are frustrated that Nico did not show up today, a day before the spring game. Or maybe a lot of them support Nico. I do not know. I do not know. Put down your comments and thoughts. Pete Knuckles on 3, as we reported yesterday, multiple sources close to the situation indicated that Nico's current contract is somewhere between $2.2 million to $2.5 million. Pete Sampson, an Irish beat writer, in 3 games against the top 25 opponents last season, Nico went 48 of 91 for 465 yards and 1 touchdown. The Vols went 1-2 in those games. What a sport. If you look at the 2024 Nico stats, 63.8 completion percentage, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 2,600 yards. He ran for 358, 3.3 yards per average. Okay, so Deloitte says that deal could be worth $600,000. Yeah, I don't know what Deloitte. They're trying to, again, Nico's trying to renegotiate the deal before the Deloitte clearinghouse operation comes into effect. So the question is, ladies and gentlemen, should the Vols say bye to Nico or say hi to Jake Merklinger? Before we get to Merklinger, before we get to the redshirt freshman quarterback out of Georgia, I'm going to give you my thoughts on Nico. He's all right. He's all right. I talked about it last year. he had a lot of things going against him. The offensive line was, we talked about it. That offensive line was, I mean, I predicted the Buckeyes to blow out the doors of the Volunteers in that playoff game. I predicted that the defensive line was going to throw the Volunteers offensive lineman to the side and Nico would be running all day, and it's exactly what happened. But that's what Nico was doing the whole season. And it's not like Nico is a rhythm quarterback where he feels comfortable in the quarterback, where he takes a 3-step drop or a 5-step drop and he's ready to pull the trigger. He's got to work on that. But the offensive line did him no favors. Having said that, did you see greatness out of Nico? Is anybody talking about Nico as a candidate to get to New York City as a Heisman Trophy candidate? Is anybody really bringing his name up seriously as a Heisman candidate? I mean, maybe if he develops more. He's on the last year of an $8 million pay-for-play contract. He's gotten a lot more than he's put out, I tell you that. Nico made some, I mean, even as a running quarterback, he ain't all that great. He's good at creating time for himself. He can make off-schedule plays, but he's not a great running back quarterback either. He's not. Look at the stats. Just over 3 yards a carry. He often gets caught for loss. We talked about this as well. I mean, if he did not have Dylan Sampson behind him, Dylan Sampson, the great running back for Tennessee, who broke tackles, he carried that offense. The defense carried the offense. Sampson carried the offense. Sampson carried the O-line. Sampson carried Nico. It was obvious. Any Tennessee game you watch, number 6, Dylan Sampson was the beast. If anyone should be making, well, he went off to the NFL, but he's the guy that deserved the money. The question is, should the Volunteers just say bye to Nico? Are they going to say bye to Nico today? Nico did not show up for practice. And it was unexpected. Maybe Nico is about to say bye to the Volunteers. Jake Merklinger, if you go look at his high school tape, you can find it. Go HUDL, Huddle, Jake Merklinger. You can find his high school tape. He's got a lot of tape out there. You cannot type in Merklinger. You're going to see what he did at Calvary Day School. He was a 4-year starter. So it ain't like the kid's got a lot of tape on him. He was a 4-star. And if you go ahead now, he only played like I think he had like 9, 8, 7, 6 pass attempts, played a little bit. But if you go read the Tennessee message boards, if you go read their beat writers, there is, I can't remember the guy's name, but there is a podcast out there. I think it's Mike, SEC Mike, and he has on a partner who is a Tennessee fan. His name is like Cousin Luke or Cousin, somebody know in the chat room. A very good podcast show. He calls himself Cousin something. He's a big guy. He's like me, a big guy. Cousin Shane. Thank you. Christopher Shannon, Jose. I love listening to that guy. I love listening to Cousin Shane. And I checked last night, and he hasn't been on with, is the other guy named Mike? The SCC podcast. Okay, but is the other guy named Mike? I'm hoping they do something today. Yeah, SCC Mike. Okay, I'm hoping they do something today. I want to know what cousin Shane says. So go check that out. Get a chance later today. I would, if I was Tennessee, I think I would walk away from Nico at this point. The problem is there are so many other issues with this, right? Patrick agrees, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Nico's position is in the locker room. I don't know if other guys would follow him out the door. I don't know if they don't give the extra money to Nico, if they don't renegotiate with Nico, like, well, what if they do? What if Nico gets a good, decent raise out of this? Are the other players going to come up next, knocking on the door as we are one day ahead away from spring game? There's so much to this. And put down your comments. Give me a phone call later in the show. If Nico does walk out the door, where do you think he would go? Where do you think his agents could negotiate a higher deal than $2.5 million? I got to tell you, man, where is he going to get that money? He can't transfer to the SCC. It don't matter what a court says right now. All the lawyers are ready to sue again. That's the SCC conference rules. Where can he go for where can he go to make $3 million? Where can he go to where that $3 million is worth more than a $2.5 million in Knoxville, Tennessee? Any, maybe Oregon? His value might not be higher elsewhere. Liberty or BYU, Jake Rasloff? I don't think BYU would do that to Rasloff. Maybe Liberty. Liberty's going to get him $3 million. Nico's going to go to Liberty. That is a risk. Field crew, dirt, Dr. Cheese, move on. But where is he going to go? Nobody that's ready to win. Move him to New York level. Awards is going to pay him $4 million. Nobody will want this headache. He go to South Florida, University of South Florida. Bill O'Brien in Boston College is are the Eagles or are the boosters at Boston College a collective willing to give him $3 million? How impactful would that be on Boston College football? Okay, so again, the question on Nico, to Nico or not to Nico, I would, if I was the Volunteers, I'd be looking at Jake Merklinker. And they also got another guy, McIntyre, another prime true freshman quarterback. Merklinker is a redshirt freshman quarterback, I believe. I don't think he's a sophomore. I think he's a redshirt freshman quarterback. So they got two guys with a lot of skill. I would say bye to Nico, take my chances. But again, one of those things that I don't know is how much pull does Nico have in that locker room? If you lose Nico, are you going to lose some other guys that you don't want to lose? Are they going to follow Nico out the door to where again? To Oregon? We shall see. John Till, I'd rather spend the $4 million on O-line talent. John Till, thank you for the super chat. I think a lot of people would agree with you. Kenneth Maynard, if you are Liberty, it might be worth it to get to the playoffs. Good comment, Kenneth Maynard. Missing the practice is a big part of this. The observer. Him negotiating, not a problem. Him missing practice, a practice before the spring game, that might be a problem. Steele Austin, the BYU Boosters are spending their money at NIL for men's basketball, not football. It's a quarterback battle between Sand and Keinholz. We covered that a couple days ago. Neck and neck, Ryan Day says. Neck and neck. John Dry, he can hang out with Michael Hudson and Lubbock. Helmer Henderson getting bad advice. Shocking. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Wolverine. Okay, so we covered You're right, D5 Terps. D5 Terps, it does sound like a poll. Let's get a poll done. And then we'll get into the settlement and everything else that I got to get off my chest. And you guys can tell me how wrong I am once again. How should I ask this? Will or should? Will Nico walk away from Tennessee? I got it. Will Nico be starting quarterback at Tennessee week 1 of the 2025 college football season? Let me know. We're going to do a poll here. We'll give you about 3 minutes. And then we're going to go on to the the NCAA house settlement and all that good stuff. $25 votes are in. I'm going to give everybody another minute. And I'm going to check some, if there's any information circling. Five more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 71% no. 71% no. You guys agree with me. I think he's going to, I think Tennessee should say bye. Look, I get it. Carson Beck reported $4 million. This guy, Arch Manning, whatever. But do you think Nico really deserves a raise? I didn't see that from him, to be honest. Okay. Here's the thing. I'm going to repeat this again. the NCAA House settlement is reality. It doesn't matter if we're all 100% against all of it. It's a settlement between the House lawyers and the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12. All these schools have signed off on it. It's reality. It is what it is. And I think so many people are still missing that. And if this falls apart, then the House lawyers are going to extract even a massive back pay penalty on every one of these institutions. That, again, is reality. Start there. I mean, honestly, so many people are, Greg, this is terrible. We're way past all that. The horse, the cows, the pig, the sheep, they're all out of the barn. It's all out. And then this settlement was a negotiation between the leaders of the conferences that your schools are in with the House, the swimmer from Arizona State, his lawyers. This is all part of the negotiation. And guess what? Your school signed off on it. Period. Great, but this would work better. Greg, this can't happen. It doesn't matter. So here we are. If you don't want a $20 billion, $25 billion back pay settlement, if you want to stick to a $2.8 billion, you got to try to make this work. It's no more complicated than that. If this doesn't work, there's going to be hell to pay. By the team that you root for, it's going to be hell for them. It is. I don't care how rich your program is. It's going to be hell. So much more money coming out of the athletic department for more class action suits. This has got to work. Now, because of the House settlement, the House NCAA settlement, more student athletes are going to get paid more compensation than ever before. So it's not all bad. It's not all evil. It does not bring in a collective bargaining. It does not bring in students being employees. We are so far away from either one of those things happening. We got to deal with the world as it is now. This is reality. And if you think I'm yelling, I mean, I've had most of my conversations now are about this, where people still don't get that this is happening. Now, why is the Big 12, the ACC, the SEC, and the Big Ten, and all the institutions are supporting their commissioners? Why are they trying to get a deal, a structure, an antitrust exemption? Why are they trying to get their hands around NIL? Because simply it is the poison pill. It is a monster. You cannot tell these students, we've had so many examples of this already. You can't tell students you must stay at this college for your education. You cannot go to that college. You can't do that. You can't do that. It ain't going to happen. So these student athletes got freedom, more freedom than the NFL players, and they got freedom, right? They got freedom. They can switch. If Nico wants to leave, he can leave. I don't care if he has a contract, there's a buyout provision, okay, they're committed to that, but he can leave. We just had this whole scenario where a player from Wisconsin just signed a contract, but guess what? He wants to go to Miami. So he's going to leave. He's at Miami. You can't stop him from going to Miami. You can have a buyout provision to benefit Wisconsin, but you can't stop him from going to Miami, which is unlike the NFL, the NBA. Okay, you can't have a draft. You can't have a draft. You cannot tell students that they have to go to a certain college. So there's no draft. No draft, no truly binding contracts to your player, to your left tackle, to your quarterback. All of that creates a pay-for-play situation where it is tied to the player on where he plays. If you are an NFL player, most of these big major NIL deals, it's not tied to where you are playing. But these college deals to the student, yeah, they are. Yes, they are. So they're not really name, image, and likeness deals, are they? They're pay to play. And this is what all these commissioners, this is their number one objective. To make sure that these NIL deals are looked at as NIL deals, and if they're pay-to-play deals, they are eliminated. Why? Because they don't have the power over anything else. There's not binding contracts. People can leave. Basically, you're going to give over the complete structure of college sports to 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 billionaires? Really? To agents? To lawyers? Who are supposedly advocating for the student athlete? They're advocating for the 1%ers. They're advocating for the 2%ers because that's where they're going to get their biggest slice of cheese. They don't want these monster pay-to-play contracts to go away. They don't want it. Why would they want those to go away? They wanted control. Just like the owners. The owners have had control. The conferences, the schools have had control over decades. Control over labor. And that shouldn't have been. But now we're going to give all the power to a few agents, a few billionaires, and a few lawyers. The NIL deals in the NFL are not they're not going to change. They don't change the landscape of the NFL because the NFL players are binding contracts. But college, there is no binding contracts. So these pay-for-play deals are more powerful than anything else. It's the ultimate ace up the sleeve. It destroys. I mean, this is why they're all rushing to Capitol Hill to get this done. And I don't blame them a bit. Even though the owners have screwed over labor for 5 decades, 6 decades, 7. This world that we're about to venture into, it is why they have the Deloitte Clearinghouse. It's why they want to make sure these NIL deals are truly name, image, and likeness deal. A deal that you would have and it would transfer, you would still have the deal even if you went to another school. That's a true name, image, and likeness deal. Not a pay-to-play. Not something that circumvents a rev share cap. Now you say, well, great, they should be collective bargain. It should be a collective bargain. But we're not going to get it. We got this settlement that's real. It's happening now. And if you had a collective bargaining, what are the owners? Let me ask you a question. What are the owners going to get out of it? it's fruitless. If the student athletes can leave at any point, if there's no draft, if they've got more power than an NBA player, an NFL player, if all they got to do is a pay-to-play deal, and because the pay-to-play deals are out there because the people willing to give the money know that people can come to them and their current contracts are not binding. What is left the collective bargain for the owners? They've already lost. That's why they're going to Congress. Now, people might say, look, Greg, then you have to have the student athletes be employees. If you have them be employees, then there's going to be binding contracts. I don't buy that. I don't know, how could that even work? First of all, every single university doesn't want these student athletes to be employees. Every single one. Think about that. Think about that. Dartmouth, Berkeley, Houston, BYU, Utah, West Virginia, Purdue, Minnesota. Go right down the list. Not a one of them wants their student athletes to become employees. They don't want any of their students to become employees. Not the person who's working for credits, who's working at a research. They don't want any of it. They don't want to even open up that Pandora's box. It will change college education. They don't want it. But even if it was, I mean, are you still going to be able to mandate a student to stay at this college, and he can't go to another college? Now, the next line, the next line that I get is, well, Greg, maybe Michigan Wolverines, the Ohio State Buckeyes, the Ohio Bobcats, the BYU Cougars, maybe all these schools should detach their athletics from the school. So it's a true NFL, a true NBA light, where they're not students. Forget about the student. If they want to go to class, they can go to, but they're not students at all. All right, go for it. But the problem is, if you do that, if you detach the athletic department, if you move the Michigan Wolverines out of the attachment of Michigan, University of Michigan, the value of those sports teams drop like a rock because they do not own the football. They do not own the intellectual right. They don't own nothing. The university owns all that. You're going to have to start from scratch, son. That idea, I brought that idea up and I had somebody laugh at me so hard they had to hang up the phone on me. That's how stupid that idea is at this point in time. We're not, this college football thing that we love can't be amateurism, but it can't be NFL. It's got to be somewhere in the middle. It's a very complicated issue. I do not have the answers. But I would tell you this, I completely understand why these commissioners are trying to get the carve out. Because if they don't, the only people who run this football now, the only people that run it, the only people that has any power is a handful of billionaires and a handful of lawyers and a handful of agents. That's it. If they don't get this carve out, that none of this, nothing else matters. Nothing will matter. Nothing. A few billionaires will run the whole thing. Is that what you want? Really? That is what you all want? I would be, if that becomes reality, man, I don't know if I would invest any time in any of this, because it wouldn't be competition. The product would no longer be competition. Why do you think I rail against the idea of the SEC Big Ten breakaway? I say it might happen 5-6 years from now. But I also tell you what a horrific idea. Why do I rally against the fact that this idea of cutting out the G5 playoff axis? The Rudy Project, they would have these schools not even play the G5 and FCS. I want whatever we do to help the product of competition. The pay-to-play thing is, I'm a capitalist. I am. I am a capitalist. But part of being a capitalist, when we're talking about sports, the product is competition. That is what you should be focusing on, because that's why the people are watching. The drama, the pageantry, the history of the competition. They're not sitting there watching a bidding contest between 3 billionaires over people that we never even heard of. Most of us, players. Getting deals that they won't even get in the NBA. All right, I'm gonna open up the phone lines. Let me know how wrong I got it once again. Talk to me about Nico. Talk to me about anything you want to talk about college sports. 763 260-1333. Give me a call. Give me a call.
From
Rick.
Rick is on the line. The floor is yours.
No, you got it so wrong, Greg.
I figured you'd call. I figured you'd say that. Go ahead, sir. Appreciate you calling.
Well, thanks for taking the call. Hey, a few billionaires already run the business.
I disagree with that.
Okay. A few billionaires are going to be paying out $2.8 billion in a settlement here, maybe, or they might pay out $20 billion.
Well, many schools are going to pay that out.
Well, that's part of the business.
But that's not a few billionaires. Those are institution, athletic departments, NCAA.
Billion dollar businesses. That's what I call them.
Okay. All right.
You call them universities.
No, they're in business. No, I mean they've got contracts with sponsorship. No, it's a business. No question about it. But I'm just saying. Your first question.
Too, right?
Go ahead.
And they have employees too, right?
Yeah, there's employees. Yep.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I'm fine. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
No problem.
I just wanted to make the point that they're businesses. They have employees. Nico.
Yep.
Nico is doing what professional athletes do. He's testing the water's fair market value.
When they're free agents, yes.
Well, he is.
Well, they're always free agents. They're free agents all the time. That's the point.
Yeah, until they're not.
Well, when are they not?
When they don't have a contract.
Even with a contract, they're free agents. None of these contracts are binding anybody to anything. These guys are going to be able to go to another college, even under a contract. They're just going to buy out the contract in a buyout provision.
You've never in your life seen one of those contracts.
Oh yeah, I have. I've got a Georgia Tech contract. I know what the contracts looks like. These players, we've already had players sign a contract. The Wisconsin secondary player signed a contract And then soon after, like a month later, Miami, they got together, and now he's with Miami.
So
these
so
contracts
they're
are not
signing-
binding anybody to anything.
So they're signing worthless contracts.
Well, there is a commitment from the university to pay the money, the collective, to the player. And if there's a buyout, the player probably is going to have to pay back the buyout, but it ain't going to bind the player to a program, because there are students. They're going to be able to, if they want to go to another college, they're going to be able to go to another college. That's just
Okay. Well, we're getting back to the same thing, because that's the term of the contract.
But they're all free agents all the time. Anyone
because
can
the
leave at any
contract
time.
Because the
That's
contract
unlike
says they
the
can.
NFL, the NBA players. There's a difference
Because
here.
because the contract says they can.
The fact that they're a student says they can.
No, the contract says they can.
Well, the contract
can-
says they can, because everybody knows you can't bind these students to a college. You can't do it. You cannot do it. So everyone knows this game. This.
Correct. It's circuitous. You can't bind them to a contract because they're a student, but you can still give them contracts.
Well, you're making a commitment. You're saying, as a university, like these rev share contracts, we are going to pay you this amount of money, and the school is committed to paying you that amount of money. But if that player after 3 months wants to leave, he's going to leave. Unlike an NBA, NFL contract, where
Then why
they're
would
going to
you
have
give
to.
them that contract?
What?
Then why would you give them that contract?
Because you're making a commitment to the player. So the player knows what he's making. Because you have a rev share cap of $25.5 million. You're making a commitment.
And you know what you're getting into.
I know. That's not the debate. Again, these contracts that are being done, that are going to be done, are not going to be the same as the NBA, NFL contracts. They're not binding. There's not a bind from the student athletes to the program like an NBA player is to the NBA franchise. It ain't the same.
I understand.
Yeah, and that's important because that makes the
No,
pay-to-play stuff very potent.
That's your point, but it's not my point.
Okay.
My point is, they know what they're doing. The colleges, and they're doing it anyway.
Well, they have to do it this way because it's part of the settlement deal. It's the settlement. They had to do it.
There is no settlement.
There will be on July. It'll be all official on July 1st.
No, it won't. It'll be thrown out before then.
Okay, and then when it gets thrown out, what do you think happens?
I think they'll, that person you talked to that laughed and hung up?
Yeah.
After they hung up, they cried. Because that's the reality of what's coming.
Well, the reality is, if this implodes, that $2.8 million back pay is going to just skyrocket. And,
that's correct.
And then we're going to see a whole bunch of student athletes lose the opportunity to play the sport that they've worked at and they love. So
what's going to happen? What's going to happen is there's going to be a college football incorporated that's going to start. That's the name I gave it. College Football Incorporated.
And who is going to be running these programs? Who is going to be Michigan?
Whoever they hire.
Michigan is going to be busy paying part of a $25 billion back pay settlement. I don't think people understand.
Not only that, there's more than that. They're going to be losing college football in the future.
Okay, then we lost college football. I mean, this.
Well, unless they create College Football Incorporated, a separate entity from the college.
Okay, go for it. But it's going to be like the USFL. So if it's not going to have an attachment to these universities own the football stadiums, they own the facility, they own the intelligent rights, they own everything. So if you're going to start from scratch, go for it. There are pro leagues out there for 20, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds to play. There's some league in California. You can make about $2,000 every 6 months. Go for it. Again,
the University of Michigan is going to lease out their stadium, lease out their logo and their uniforms and everything else to the University of Michigan Incorporated.
All of this because why? What?
Because
now,
I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because the University of Michigan and the other Big Ten colleges and all of the other colleges in the SEC and the ACC and all the conferences stole billions of dollars from student athletes. And when they were caught with their hand in the cookie jar and know they're going to be convicted, they said, "Hey, let's make a deal."
And it was negotiated on, and it was settled.
No, it hasn't been settled. Because once again, they're trying to screw over the student athletes.
You know, I get it. And I was one of those for over the last 5 decades. I get it. I was for CBA. I get all that. But I'm also not going to turn away the reality that starting in 2025, more athletes than ever before are going to be compensated higher than ever before because of this settlement. Because they got their hands.
Represented.
What?
They're not represented. They are not represented.
Yeah, they're not represented. True. They don't have
Why are they not represented? Well, answer the why they're not represented.
But their schools. I mean, look, all these schools sign on to this deal. So you're a player that wants to play for the school. Your school signed on to the deal.
Yeah, the school signed on to the deal because they're crooks. They've been proven to be crooks. They're crooks in the future. Why aren't future players represented at the settlement? Since it involves future
I do think the future players are going to have I hope they have the option of opting in or out. That was a land of confusion during the last hearings. But again, guys, we're just going to have to I'm not willing. I get the sins of the last 5, 6, 7 decades. But guess what is another sin? Is to absolutely explode this settlement deal, $20 to $25 billion in back pay, and bankrupt these athletic departments where all these student athletes lose the opportunity to have a scholarship, to go to school, to get an education. I mean, that is a sin as well. And for those who are going to be celebrating, if this deal goes south, I'm sorry, but you're in the same category as the owners who ruled over this thing for 7 decades and did not compensate the players the way they should have, in my opinion.
Well, there'll be plenty of opportunities for football players to get scholarships to go to colleges and play football.
Well, I hope to God that we don't that we don't see what's about to happen when this settlement breaks apart because they were unsuccessful for a carve out, because I think people have absolutely no clue what the impact's going to be. And if people are rooting for that, God love you. But if it happens, this YouTube channel is shutting down, because there ain't going to be these athletic departments are going to just go under. I mean, you can't look, the sins of the past can't keep. There's got to be a point where you pay for them and you move on. I would love a collective bargaining agreement. I would love it. But at this point, what are the owners even going to get out of it? If there's going to be a pay to play hanging over the whole system, because there's not going to be binding contracts. Again, I don't see this solution that everyone's talking about. I don't see it unless there's a carve out. These students are not going to become employees. They're just like 100% of the universities are against it. Even the ones that don't make a whole lot of money out of sports. Even the ones that don't make any money out of sports. They're not becoming employees. This is not going to be like the NFL. It's not. It's never going to be like the NFL.
There is not going to be a carve out, and Judge Kavanaugh told you why in Austin.
Well, he said, one of the things that Kavanaugh said is you cannot treat the student athlete the same way you got to treat the student athlete the same way you treat the student. Well, I got to tell you something.
You can't. What he said was you can't violate antitrust laws.
Okay, but unless you get an antitrust exemption. Look. If you are a student, and I've made this argument before, if you are a student, and if you are a great violinist, and you are making money on your name, image, and likeness because you are a great violinist and you're a student, you should get that money. Same thing with the football player. But that violinist is going to make that money on the NIL deal, not because it's tied to what university she's playing that violin, but because she's a great violinist and that is a true name, image, and likeness deal. The problem with these massive, supposedly called NIL deals is that they're not name, image, and likeness deals. They're pay to play. And that power controlled by a few people, a few agents, a few billionaires, is going to destroy what we've got way more than what's even happened in the last 7 decades. Because that's not that can happen in the NFL. It can happen in the NBA because those players can't move around. In college, you're going to be able to move around. So that pay to play is a poison pill. And that is what is recognized by the commissioners. And that is why they're running up and trying to get a carve out. If they don't get it, if they don't get this codified, it's over, Johnny. It's all over. It is. Because if they don't get this codified, it's go ahead.
None of that control that you just listed happens without the ultimate control of the players. There are no agents. There are no billionaires giving out money. There are no lawyers unless the players want them. The players have the power.
Oh, yeah, I know they do. Just like Major League Baseball.
And so does the NCAA.
Wow.
And so does Judge Kavanaugh. They all know who has the power. Next caller.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the call.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you, sir. Great call. Rock and Rant, an MOU is not a contract if no money was paid. Great. That's fine. That's fine. I am... I don't... You're not gonna... Forget about, okay, pretend it's July 1st, these player contracts, like a rev share contract, is not going to bind the player to the university. And I don't even care if it's money. Money's going to them quarterly, whatever. It doesn't. It's not going to bind them to the university like an NBA contract, like an NFL contract. And because of that reality, and because of the reality, there's never going to be a draft. Like these guys and gals are going to be able to move to the colleges. The freedom of movement is going to be unlike what is going on in the NBA and the NFL and these other pro franchises. It's not going to change. It ain't. And because of that freedom of movement, the agents and the billionaires know that they rule the game. They rule the game. Nope, nothing else is even close to importance because of the freedom of movement. You're not going to be able to collect a bargain even if you had that, which you're not going to have. It's like people are living in a world that it doesn't exist. This is why every single university president, leader, commissioner are going up the Capitol Hill and saying, we need help on the NIL, which is pay to play for most of it. And I don't know what needs to happen for people to understand that. Great. I understand. Look, 7 decades, 8 decades, whatever you want to, all the sins of the past. I agree, baby. I started this YouTube channel talking about it. But I understand what else is going on. The power of pay to play it's just going to be everything. That's it. Nothing else is going to matter. If we keep, how else, like, you're not going to have binding contracts. You're not going to have a draft. This isn't going to be the NBA. It's not going to be the NFL. The players have more power than NBA, NFL players in freedom of movement, not being able to bind on the contract, being able to go to the college. They're not going to be drafted. And that is all feeding the pay to play. The opportunity for billionaires to do this pay for play, it's always going to be there unless there's a carve out. And all these other issues are like, well, they all should come to the... That's my point. I don't know. All this is ridiculous. We all know it's pay to play. Yeah, we do. I'm not even calling them NIL deals anymore. I think that is a hoax. I keep calling things that's a hoax. These are they're not transferable. If you move to another college, that deal is done. That's not how the name, image, and likeness deals are out there for other students or other professionals. It's only out there for... these are not NIL deals. These are pay to play. I guess, look, maybe people are comfortable with a handful of billionaires running the sport. A handful of agents. Power to the players. I always said that, but now I also see what the other side is, and it's, boy...
Call from
Nitwit.
Nitwit, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir.
Well, hey, thanks for having the show and giving me the time, Greg.
You bet.
As we go forward here, like I said, I've been following this and you've been following it. I go back to the court hearings. I'm glad that was brought up. I'm glad you brought up that you should be treated like a student. And that's what people don't talk about. It's not the court case that has put us here. It's the collectives that are given NIL deals that are not NIL deals to football players. What the court said is you cannot restrict players from getting NIL deals. They have to be treated like everybody else.
Yeah, but these are not NIL deals.
They're not NIL. You think Judge Kavanaugh thinks that's an NIL deal?
No, I would love for Judge Kavanaugh to see all this and say, you know, I would love for him to look at this again, because this is not. I mean, these players are getting more money than they do if they were the first year in the. I mean, this is becoming. I don't know. It's becoming a joke. Really.
Just go to Livy Dunn's testimony during the settlement here.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me that she's worth more money than the LSU quarterback. There's your argument. She is worth more money to that school because she's going to bring more kids to that school. No, I don't even know who the LSU quarterback is right now. And he's making millions of dollars.
Nussmeier, he's a great quarterback. My point is. I'm
just saying he is not on the NL level as Livy Dunn. He's not. If you look at her social media and how she engages people and who wants to go to that school, there is no way that he is worth more than she is to that school.
I get it. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, a lot of these, the Florida State athletic director just said it. He said people would be shocked if what these NBA play. A lot of these NBA NIL deals are $25,000 deals. They're not. It's not pay to play. They're not pay to play. See, the billionaires out there are not willing to pay NBA players all this money for NIL because they know the NBA player doesn't have freedom to move. It's the freedom. Right. It's the freedom to move. Is the gasoline. It's the non-binding contracts is the gasoline for pay to play, for people to strike the match. And so because of that inducement, that power, everything else is kind of like nothing else even matters anymore. And it's got to matter because we got to have some sort of structure for competition. We have to make like personnel decisions, development decisions. I mean, all these things that mix up in a big bowl that we love, college football, competition. All that has to matter, but none of it matters if you have pay to play just dominating like they're treating it as their toys and nothing can be done about it. That is why, because they're not binding contracts.
You're never going to get a binding contract.
You're not going to get a binding contract.
Because they're students.
They're students.
If you got to treat them like students, any student can leave a school at any time.
Yeah.
You're not unless you make them employees, which
that ain't going to happen.
Wants to make them employees.
And that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Nobody wants that to happen.
And that was Kavanaugh's argument. He made those points in his argument. You make them employees, but then again, like, that's Kavanaugh. Like, here I go back to the judiciary again. There's no way a student should be an employee of a school, no matter what. Let's say I'm a computer tech wizard, and I go to a school, and I have to be under restrictions because I do super secret stuff, and I can't let that out, therefore it won't let me get NIL. Oh, I understand that. I understand it. So what are we doing here? Like that's what I mean. Like you go down to these court cases. Like it's one thing to sit here in a courtroom and say, "Oh, okay, blah 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 blah, this or this." Well, here's the reality. Yeah. I'm sure there's students at Stanford that are working on top secret stuff, and they can't do anything, and they can't get NIL from that. I mean, so what are you going to say? Well, we're limiting their NIL ability. Well, they knew that going in. You knew it when you signed your scholarship. It wasn't like you signed a scholarship in 1995. You knew what it was all about.
There are options out there if a young man wants to play professional, semi-professional football, there's options out there. There is.
Right.
Everyone, you know.
I mean, I totally agree.
It comes to a point where we're trying to take the college out of college football, and it ain't going to happen. And because college is going to stay in college football, it can't be treated like the NBA and the NFL. So the players are not going to have all the benefits of being a student and all the benefits of being a player. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen.
I've never heard it like that, Greg. You should be commended for saying it that way, because you cannot put that square you can't put that circle in that square. It's not going to fit.
No.
It's not going to fit. So I appreciate you taking my call, Greg. Thanks a lot.
All right,
Have a
man.
good night.
Appreciate it. And this comes from a pro-labor. I mean, I can't even, I can't even feel good. Like, I'm told not to feel good about, more football players, more basketball players in college sports in 2025 are going to make more than they ever have before. The majority of them. The great majority of them are going to make money they've never made before. And yet, because of the settlement, and yet we got to feel bad about it. Because it still isn't good enough. I mean, because the very top potential earners, that Deloitte Clearinghouse might cut them down a little bit. So now I got to feel really bad about everything. I don't. And if this all gets destroyed, then you got a $20 billion payment or more. I don't know.
Call from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant, Mr. Hurricane. The floor is yours.
How are you, Greg, besides fired up?
I'm doing fine. I'm okay. I said, I don't have the solution. I don't have a solution. So let's start there.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, listen, I'm in violent agreement and disagreement with you, right?
Beautiful.
Like, I'm not here because I want this settlement to fail or the things you're saying. And I think a lot of people in the chat, when we're coming back at some of your points, it's not because we want this to be the case. It's I think that the settlement will get passed with a couple of tweaks on the three main things. But those two of those three tweaks of future athletes and third-party NIL that the judge seemed to talk about, in addition to there was one other thing which is escaping my mind. Ross Dellinger outlined them well. I agreed with what he said. Those two things could be minor tweaks or could be massive things that implode this.
Yeah.
So let's just say that they're minor,
Yeah.
right? And it gets settled. Great. I think the idea of moving college sports into, disconnected athletic departments is probably fine for some people who are fans, right? But for me, who is an alum of the school, if you didn't go to Miami, I don't care about you as much. I don't care if you at least played, one semester. At least I have a connection that you walked the trails that I walked, right? And that emotional thing is a difference between well, I'm a Jets fan, but I don't feel the same way, despite them, mainly because they sucked for 50 years. You rip that fabric out, right? So I completely agree with you on that. But my concern is not that I want this to fail and I'm poking the holes in it to make it fail. Just because we don't agree, we don't like something doesn't make it factually incorrect. A memorandum of understanding is only really a contract in certain situations, one of which is paying somebody, at least something you have a case in court to argue that, right? We have an idea of what the map's going to be, but we haven't actually driven the road. So that would change, of course, like you're saying, July 1st. My concern is they're going to sign this, and all these things that the judge is hiding her head in the sand about, I don't want to touch this, those lawsuits will come right after. The fact that the colleges don't want to make them employees, I get why they don't want to do that, but then they're completely pushing back about these other things that come as a result of their desire to move to, well, we won't pay you at all, to we don't want to pay you as employees, which would actually bring in some degree of cost restrictions like the NBA and NFL have. They don't want that. But then, because they won't do that, they complain about the transferability and the mobility and all these other things that are coming up. So I just think that once this gets settled, there's going to be so many lawsuits in the long run that could blow it up. And this, as much as the agents and the billionaires, in my view, are bad on the one side, taking advantage. First, that's what agents are supposed to do. Some of them do it with no moral integrity, so we could be real. But like, they're supposed to advocate. Billionaires are going to do what billionaires are going to do, and whether it's like a check in an NIL or a car 20 years ago from a dealership in the South, same thing, right? Miami's had its own problems. I'm not here to ignore that. I'm concerned it's going to fail because the thing that everybody needs to do, they don't want to do. And the reason why they don't want to do it is because there is this other aspect of being a student, and nobody has cracked it. And I think everyone's thinking we're going to come to this resolution on July 1st, and I'm just fearful because we won't really address the true elephants, that the things that you're fearful of and are making you go, well, they're never going to do employment, those are going to actually blow up because nobody's really dealing with the reality of it. That's my concern. Like, I don't want it to fail. I'd be fine if it just moves forward, but I could poke holes in it, and I'm not even a lawyer, but I play one on call-in shows, you know? So it is going to get picked apart. It is going to get shattered. They need, so that and they know that. That's why they're trying to get it codified. That's why they're trying to get all kind of protections. Right.
There isn't.
Right, and there's the other thing. They could get the they could get the codification, right, and get the antitrust exemption, and that solves it. But they're seemingly like that seems dicey as well. I thought it was ironic that they go to lobby about poverty and everything, and they have this big ceremony in this elaborate ballroom where Ross Dellinger was reporting from. So there's all these paths, but no one wants to take them.
It is. I mean, it's I call it a moonshot. I call it a miracle shot. It's even. I think it's even more drastic than dicey, but I think it's their only shot. At this point, it's their only shot because it is going to get all. Because if they don't get it, then this thing is going to get picked apart eventually in many different ways. And then the House lawyers are going to say, well, this fell apart, so we're going to go into a contracted legal thing, and that $2.8 billion is going to grow. I mean, the hammer's already been set, and they're just going to bash it in on these athletic departments. And I know they have sinned the last 7 decades, 8 decades, 100 years, but then I also don't want everybody to go belly up. It's like rock and rat. So I years ago, and this again, most lawyers are very good people, just like most doctors, whatever. Okay, so this is going to sound like a shot. I want you to try to take it in the spirit I tell this story. Okay, me and the wife are driving. We're coming back from I think visiting the Kings in Illinois or whatever, and we're going through Rockford, Illinois. It's on the border. Have you ever been through Rockford, Illinois, Rock and Rat?
No, I have not.
Well, I would advise you don't go through Rockford, Illinois. But anyways, we were driving through Rockford, Illinois, and it ain't what it was when I was young. But anyway, we're driving through it. And everything is dilapidated. I mean, everything is closed up. There's a pawn shop open. There's a liquor store open. There's a XXX movie theater open. But most of everything's locked up. There's brick building after brick building, like one-level brick buildings, just block after block. Everything is boarded up. Almost everything. And I'm going to be honest with you, and Maria, if she was in the chat room, she would confirm this. I had a tear. I mean, I was actually like crying in the car. And the only thing that you could see in Rockford, Illinois, the only thing that had any life to it was these gigantic billboards, block after block after block. And the billboards rose up in the sky, and they were massive, And all of them said the same thing. If you need a lawyer, if you need to sue your employer, if you need this, you could tell that the lawyers love this area and they picked it apart. And that is just one of many reasons. Like, I understand the sins of the last 7 decades. I get it. I want the student athletes to get more compensation. They're getting it. I want to have them more health protections. I get it. But I also know the golden goose is all about competition, because that is the product. And if this thing goes from the ownership ruling 7 decades of screwing the athletes to a small bunch of people, a few billionaires and lawyers and agents controlling the sport, we're still heading towards destruction. I guess that's my Paul Revere on a horse, waving the flag, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is definitely one of those ones where I'm not coming on saying I know what the solution is. Like, the solution is for antitrust to happen, for there to be a forward representative thing that was handling the future, because this lawsuit was essentially about past wrongs, right? And then somehow they buckled on to it a future thing where the people who are going to be party to that are not actually part of it, and that's another part of the wrinkles for it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's going to make the fact of where we are right now, it's going to make the next week or so super interesting. But I think the next week or so with the portal opening actually goes back to all this. Like, it's a lot of crocodile tears from the universities in a lot of ways, right? Because what are they all doing? They all know that right now the agreement's not in place. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to circumnavigate everything they can and front load everything. So, like, it's hard to feel sympathy, even though the destruction would hurt us personally, when they're all crooks. So when you're talking about the billionaires and the agents, well, how about the fact that all the universities who are really competing at the highest level are all trying to jam their crap in before the deal comes to front load it? So, like, to have the altruistic, we need rules, we need enforcement, I think is a little facetious. Along those lines, just to transition into, like, all right, let's just put ourselves in the world of the craziness of the transfer portal. I'm really surprised we haven't had more Nico agents negotiating in broad daylight happen. I know there's been some, and there's leaks for sure, but this is the most sort of bold and brazen one, with, like, a holdout from playing that from practicing. So I don't know. It feels like by the hour we're going to get updates on that one.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not sure what your take was earlier in the show.
So this was obviously someone leaked this information on 3, right? And it probably came from the Tennessee side, right?
Or it came from Nico's side, saying, like, tell me you're in the portal without telling me you're in the portal, so I could figure out what my market value is.
But the Nico people denied it. The representatives of Nico all told ESPN and everybody else that we're not renegotiating. So this came from the Tennessee side. I mean, they leaked it. And I got a feeling they leaked it because I think I don't know. I'm just guessing, but I think they're going to move on. But
I mean, that would be unbelievable if that happened. I mean, just completely blowing up your way too early SEC predictions for everybody who's done them.
Well, I got Tennessee sliding back this year because of Nico. I don't see greatness out of them. I see the offensive line was again bad last year. Dylan Sampson was the heart and soul of that team. He's gone. So I don't know if it would change my prediction. I don't have them. I got them sliding back.
Yeah, for sure. I just mean generally whatever rank you're doing on them. But man, short of teams moving, I don't know if you've had a more diverse off-season week than this week, even if there was no finalization to the settlement, because it's been wild.
Yeah.
With your plus the stuff that you've been getting on the realignment, so props to you, man. Talking to you.
You and I should talk about that. Yeah, I got to get up on your show and we'll talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's that. God. Yeah, so I'm getting in trouble everywhere, Rock and Rant, but that's what I do best.
Well, that's a good sign. That's what you need to do. Controversy is the name of the game, you know.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate it, my man.
Good one, Greg.
You got
Thanks to everybody out there.
You got it. Beautiful call. Beautiful phone calls from Rick, Nitwit, Rock and Rant. Excuse me. I'm losing my voice. Beautiful calls. I got to get caught up on the super chats here. My bad. Helmer Hennison with 44221 plus 1, 3 be tilted enough for an SEC 20 or the Big 20. If it's a, and again, I think an indicator of the SEC and the Big 10 looking to expand to 20 is when we get more information, more reporting out of what's happening with the college football playoffs 2026 and beyond. If we get some reporting that it's going to 14, but there's mechanisms to quickly go to 16, or if the reporting comes out that we're going to 16 right away, either one of those two, that would suffice for a Big 20 and an SEC 20, in my opinion. And I think that's where we're going. I think the college football playoff format is going to be 14 or 16 right off the bat. And if it's 14, I bet we're going to get reporting that 16 is just a easy, it's all built into the distribution. It's all built in. If there's an agreement by ESPN, everybody, I think that's what we're going to get. Thank you, Helmer Henderson. I appreciate it. John Till, if they send him, if they bend to him, they'll be bent indefinitely. Holy smokes. I think what you mean is if Tennessee bends to Nico, I don't know. I don't know how tough. Obviously there's a million things I do not know. How much pull does Nico have in that locker room? That's got to play into it. Because if Nico leaves, if you don't renegotiate with Nico, if you don't get what Nico wants, are there other key players about to bolt with Nico? I don't know any of that. Caleb Ramirez, if he were to leave, where would he go? Thank you for the super chat, Caleb. Thank you for the super chat, John Till. Thank you for the super chat, Hummer Hennison. I don't know, man. It wouldn't be in the SEC because of SEC rules. I don't know. I don't know. What about UCLA? That would be my crazy guess. But a crazy guess. Only a crazy guess. John Till, why not make the NIL deal paid out over 4 years? If they leave, payment stops and lock in, you can transfer anywhere but Bama. Take it or leave it, kid. The Nico deal was for 4 years, and he wants to renegotiate it. It was 4 years for $8 million, I think, something like that. So thank you, John Till. Thank you for the super chat. Again, a lot of these NIL deals are not really name and image and likeness deal. I did Rock and Rant. Thank you, Rock and Rant. Appreciate the super chat. Jackson Johnson, 134 days until week 0. Dublin, Ireland, Armageddon, Kansas State, Iowa State. We're going to be doing a watch party. 134 days away. 139 days until week 1. Until my beloved Golden Gophers on a Thursday night play the Buffalo Bulls in a big game. Thank you, Jackson Johnson. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it so very much. Jackson Johnson, Rock and Rant, John Till, Kayla Ramirez, Helmer Hennison, Heartbreak 25, and Has Been. Thank you all for your generosity. Help us keep the lights on. I very much appreciate it. Preston from Greensboro, what do you eat on your hot dog? It's going to be mustard, probably a slice of serrano pepper or jalapeno. mustard and serrano or jalapeno, and that's it. I could do a little bit, maybe some grilled onions, but that would be it. Watch party tomorrow, possibly. I still got to get that worked out with the little general. It would have to be an early game. I am booked later in the afternoon, into the night, late into the night. I am booked. My schedule is stacked. So if we do a watch party, it's probably going to be one of those 12 o'clock Eastern ones, like the Ohio State Buckeyes. Oklahoma would pay top dollar for Nico. Ooh, Oklahoma. I did not think of that. No cheese on a hot dog. Woo! That's got to be the worst. That has got to be the worst. Sauerkraut, that's okay. Thank you, Observer. Okay, we're going to shut it down. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 5 minutes. We talked about Nico Mania. To Nico or not to Nico? That is the question. Do you think that Nico is going to be the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Volunteers on week 1? We did a poll. 71% of the PATC voters out there said no. They don't believe Nico is going to be around for week 1. I got to believe we're going to get an update real soon. Nico did not make it for practice the morning before the spring football game. Nico did not make it for practice, and it was unexpected. His absence was unexpected. Wow. So I think by the end of the day or early tomorrow, we are going to have the answers that we seek. Is Nico walking out? Is Tennessee saying no more? We're going to go with Jake Merklinger. We'll find out. But anyways, before you leave, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you liked our content today. Share the video with your family and friends. Keep your head on a swivel. If there's big breaking news later today, we'll come on live again later tonight. So keep your head on a swivel. Buckle up. Brace for impact. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.